Pakistan? What are the challenges that women in Pakistan face with regards to accessing finance, participation in international trade, and what are some of the other associated challenges regarding capacity building, social-legal barriers, and mainstreaming financial and digital knowledge amongst women?
How can public and private sectors collaborate on policy strategies to create a business, trade environment that empowers women? So this is essentially what's going to be discussed and answered during the session here today. And we have quite an esteemed and august panel that is part of the session. And we have managed to find relevant and extremely expert women on the topic, which I feel was quite a moment of pride, because usually there is a struggle when it comes to finding women in leadership positions for relevant topics. So that's that. And yes, I'm going to introduce them now. So for chair, we have Ms. Roshan Bharucha, who is former Federal Minister for Human Rights, Kashmir Affairs, and Gilgit-Baltistan States and Frontier Regions. For special remarks, we have Ms. Rumina Khurshid Alam, who is former member of National Assembly of Pakistan. For our technical presentation and basically a launch of our report on financial inclusion as well, we have Ms. Faiza Khan, who's Head of Inclusive Finance and Digital Innovation at Tangent Consulting. For panelists, we have, for discussants, we have Ms. Huma Fakhr, who is Chairperson and founder of MAP Services Group. We have Ms. Amala Najib, who is the Program Officer at FCDO. We have Ms. Sonia Seth, who is Business Enabling Environment Lead at USAID. And of course, Dr. Waqar Ahmed as well. We have Ms. Birgit Lam, who is Country Head, FNF Pakistan, who will be doing our opening remarks. Thank you very much to all of you for taking out time for this session here today. And without further ado, I'd like to invite Ms. Birgit Lam for her opening remarks.
Honorable participants, dear friends on the panel, and everybody listening, colleagues and friends of SDPI. On behalf of Friedrich Naumann Foundation, I'm very happy to be here and to welcome you all to this very valuable discussion here, which is also very much close to our hearts, because we do have a cooperation with SDPI specifically on the issue of women empowerment and supporting especially sustainable business ideas with women. And this year we have supported and carried out together a series of trainings on the single window and how women can more successfully engage with FBR. I mean, engaging with FBR is a challenge for everybody in this country, but we do acknowledge that the issue of formality and financial affairs for women here in Pakistan is, let's say, more challenging than for their male colleagues or counterparts. And this is something within the environment of business or citizenship, which is a crucial issue which we need to work on. Friedrich Naumann Foundation has been working on women empowerment, specifically women entrepreneurship, for more than 3 years now. And we've trained cohorts of women entrepreneurs, specifically in the field of IT, digital businesses, and sustainable business ideas. And very quickly, we also came up with the ideas that growing and developing your business at a certain point in time has a lot to do with being formal to a certain degree. Basically, starting with, you need to have your CNIC. Do you have a bank account? Do you have a smartphone on your own name? And we found out that even on these very basic issues, which very often don't even have anything to do with running a business, but just being able to do your own humble economic affairs, like buying something or ordering something online, which nowadays is a big issue. And I think specifically during COVID, these ideas struck us that there's a lack that we need to attend to. So this is why we have started working on that issue. And in order to grow businesses, we need to face, I think, lots of challenges. First of all, the women themselves
need to understand the relevance of being formal, of having ideas and having these documents, and also having it in their own name, and not just the husband or the father having a phone, a bank account, or the CNIC, starting from the voting process, or when your children want to do O-level or A-level nowadays, you need to have a CNIC also as a female, as a mother. And we started training and awareness sessions for women to understand the necessity that they need to be formal as well. And then, of course, it's not only the women who need to understand that. Women empowerment is a societal issue. So, and I mean, you also need to talk to the men, because otherwise you create more conflicts within the families and in the communities, that the men also understand they benefit from their women being empowered and contributing to the family and the community as well. And coming to businesses, here in Pakistan, but it's not only in Pakistan, in Germany or Europe as well, there's still a societal prejudice that women are less financially literate, they are less competent in managing company financial affairs, although in most households it's actually the wife that manages the household money, but still when it comes to business, this is something that men feel this is their expertise. And on the other side, if you talk to investors or banks, we have found, and there is solid economic, scientific evidence on that, that formal lending by banks is more difficult for women than for men. So where does it come from? And I think we do need to change the narrative and also create more awareness for the fact that if you have a good business idea, you shouldn't look at the gender of a person, but you should look at the business idea and whether this business idea merits your investment and has a good return on investment. And I think if the idea and the passion that's behind this actually merits it, then you will get amazing return. And there's also scientific proof that shows that women are less prone to invest in risky businesses. And if you are interested in long-term sustainable investment and return on your investment, investing in a women-led business is actually a very good idea. And having said that, I'm really curious and very excited to learn the thoughts and join the discussion that we're having today. A big thank you to SDPI for taking up that subject. We are also developing a study together on women and international trade. And I think it deserves to scale up women business activities also to that level. So thank you. And I wish us all a very good and exciting discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lam. And listening to your remarks, I just remembered this one time I attended this talk where a female panelist, she said that whenever I step into my professional setup, I always leave my gender at home. So when I'm at work, I'm a person, I'm not a female. And keeping that in mind, of course, I think that really applies to what you said as well. When businesses are being considered for investments, they should be seen as business and not a female-led or a male-led business. So thank you very much for your remarks, madam. Moving on, I'd like to request Ms. Faiza Khan for her technical presentation, which is also going to be a summarization of the findings of our report on spurring financial inclusion in Pakistan. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. So I'll just start off by just saying a big thank you to the SDPI team, Dr. Waqar, Manur. They've been on their toes, and because it's the third day or maybe fourth day, I can see their faces are a little more relaxed, and that's why I'm taking this opportunity to just say kudos. The sort of past few days have been full of so much of knowledge. It's a wonderful event that the STPI has managed to sort of create this knowledge forum. Lots of topics, lots of heavy topics. Anyway, so I'm just going to delve now into my presentation. And, just to forewarn you, I'm not going to be spending too much time on the sort of stats around the status of women. A lot of it is leveraging the work that I've been doing with my World Bank Group context. We had developed gender products for banks in many geographies. For example, Lebanon, we developed gender products for a bank called BLC, and it gives me a little bit of a heartache to even mention, but Bank of Palestine, again, that was one of our sort of client banks. And in Pakistan, we sort of helped the HBL, which is the largest private sector bank, to develop gender products. They were the pioneers, and we came in a couple of years back. We had taken them to the FAW in Paris, and sort of they leveraged all that knowledge to create NISA, which was their first sort of, in fact, which was the country's first financial, you could say, a female platform among the financial sector. So that's just a bit of a preamble. I'll just take a second and just mention the ethos of this quote and why I chose this, because again, as Prejeet also mentioned, I'm sorry, is that how I say your name? Because I'm sort of francophone. That's okay. Okay. So the fact is that when you put money into a woman's business, it's not just the business that benefits. It's you could say her family. There's a huge sort of ancillary impact which we cannot monetize, and that of course has a lot of you could say domino impact in a very positive way. So that's why this quote. Yes, I know. No, wearing my glasses. I think it's better wearing my glasses. All right. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about, why this case for sort of women entrepreneurs and why it matters. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this simply because it would be like preaching to the choir, and all the sort of data and the evidence you can find in the final report that we are in the process of finalizing. So, and there's a lot of, you could say, global review as well of the data that supports this. But generally speaking, I think all this is very intuitive, that, a gender gap, the wider the gender gap, it's always diametrically opposed to the transformative power of economic disruption. So if you want to accomplish your SDGs, it's really hard to exclude women. And in one of the McKinsey reports, it actually cites an opportunity to add $28 trillion by 2025. But this is like a scenario that will likely not happen. But it's if women were given exactly the same opportunities as men. This is the sort of figure that McKinsey has come up with. Other than that, I think I don't need to sort of hammer in that potential, the sort of untapped potential that's out there. And, if we don't sort of tap into it right now, we're losing a huge economic sort of segment. And again, we would not be able to reach our goals if we sort of continue to do that. And now just a little bit about the Pakistani context, because I'll be focusing more on the context here. and you know, and the challenges, and the sort of latest slides, I think we need to spend more time on, because they have some policy measures. They mention some policy pointers, because if we know the challenges, that's what's going to help us formulate the right policies for the public sector, as well as for the private sector. And you know, when I say the private sector, it sounds like sort of a no-brainer, because you know, the private sector is like, you know, one thinks that the private sector is never going to jump on the bandwagon, because it's, you know, they're in the business of profit making. But all our sort of global experiences, and I can share that evidence, show that, you know, there's a business case for having you know, seeing women entrepreneurs as a viable asset class. So in Pakistan, so 231 million women, this is sorry, this is global. So globally, around 231 million women run formal businesses in the low and middle income countries. And globally, they represent around 40% of the labor force, while in Pakistan, this figure is around 22%. You know, while the population is almost half of the overall, you could say, the broader chunk of population. And even out of this working women segment, which is around 13.5 million, almost half of this is agri workers, which are you know, categorized as family members. They're not really taken as individual sort of workers, and they're unpaid, and they're not in the formal fold, and that, you know, that sort of creates a lot of other issues. And again, the wage gap, this is again something that we were talking about right before all the sort of members jumped on, that the wage gap is always huge. And it's true for almost every country, but of course it's a little bit wider in our neck of the woods. So again, some basic stats on the potential. And again, this is sort of evidence that comes from, you know, the, you could say, the highest bodies who've done a lot of research on gender and gender finance and the issues around it. So 80% consumption patterns are, you could say, influenced by women. 73% are unsatisfied with the banking services that they get. We always like to hammer that financial inclusion or access to finance is very poor in Pakistan, but actually it's true for almost every country. Of course, there are various levels of that in, and then 34% of the world's businesses are run by women, as you can see. This is like from the World Bank report, and 68%, and this to me is the most significant stat in this slide. 68% of the women-owned MSMEs say that their credit needs are not met. So there's a huge untapped, you could say, potential to sort of serve fire for vibrant growth. Manur, is it possible to just turn that a little bit towards me, because it's in a way that does that turn? If it, otherwise it's fine. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So again, I think it's just best to sort of delve into the sort of challenges, because it's the challenges that will give us the pointers towards the policy interventions that are needed. And those interventions one can categorize as immediate term, near term, and long term. So, you know, one of the things that is you need another one? Okay. again, this is something that we, during our work with multiple banks, this is something that we see everywhere, not just in Pakistan, but in almost all geographies, that women lack the collateral. Even for men, that's a challenge, but for women, it's a particular challenge because many times, especially in Pakistan, the sort of legal and you could say the social structure is such that women don't have properties in their names. So it's very hard for them to find the collateral. I mean, what's the sort of mortgage form that they can offer to the banks, right? So that's a huge problem everywhere, but again, more so in Pakistan. And we'll be talking a bit about there are ways to sort of mitigate that, to manage that, and again, a couple of policy measures that may be needed by the regulators, as well as a little bit of push from the private sector as well. And again, women are sort of, you could say, women are deemed as a very risky asset class because generally speaking, the way banks see women, they think they have unstable business cycles. They're not sure that their loans will come back. It'll sort of stay a healthy loan on their asset books. And it'll be hard to let's say follow up with recovery processes because there's that sensitivity around if a recovery officer goes and he knocks at someone's door, that the woman might sort of see that as needlessly somebody sort of pestering her, or her I don't want to use the word, but like harassment and that kind of thing. So that sensitivity is there. So banks have this sort of hands-off, unless that they manage to find a very, very feasible rate of return on that loan, they will not want to sort of lend to this women asset class, women entrepreneurs. And again, the legal framework, again, I think we spoke about this already, that, this is one of the issues. And other than the fact that it's hard to find a guarantor, collateral, there are some issues around the business processes as well. And in Pakistan, we've seen that, sometimes women are required to, sort of give the names of their guardian, their father, their husband. But without that, it's really hard to sort of, get their business off the ground. There have been some recent, you could say, improvements, but not enough, I would say. And I think regulators in Pakistan, they which is the central bank and the SECP, they actually have taken some steps to kind of manage this. And those insights came from a World Bank report called Women, Business and the Law. And they actually categorize every country according to the sort of, you could say, the hurdles that women face when trying to incorporate their businesses in terms of memorandums and that whole process. Again, this slide talks a bit about the gender gap, and I'm not going to spend too much time here because, again, I think you people sort of know these figures. One of the important figures to just keep in mind is that, that is actually the last point, which is that there's a sort of a missing, you could say, market space for 7.6 million loans to women, as per the World Bank, because these are the women that are not being served at all for the multiple factors that we just spoke about. And again, out of the sort of 5.3 million SMEs, only about 1% are owned by women. And if you look at World Bank stats, Pakistan is sort of ranked, just below regional peers like Bangladesh and India, of course, but you know, the factors are actually multiple, because it's not just social attitudes, it's also the sort of regulatory structure. And we can actually gain a lot from the experiences of our neighbors, because, you know, they were also not always so, you know, their sort of, you could say the WSME segment was not always that vibrant. It was through, you could say, kind of a multi-pronged approach that they managed to sort of get their women off the ground through, you could say, structural efforts, access to finance, training opportunities, skill development, capacity building, etc. Again, some sort of stats there. This shows the evolution, or you know, rather you could say this sort of maps out the landscape of access to finance that we have in Pakistan. And though, you know, you can see on the right side that those steps are going up. So there's definitely, you know, through the NFIS efforts, you know, Pakistan has taken major steps. But you can see that, you know, while access to finance globally is getting better and better, the gap is actually widening. And this is happening because while the sort of male access to finance is sort of going up, the female one is sort of stagnant, or it's not growing at the same rate. That's why we're actually seeing kind of a rise in the gender gap. And that's where we, you know, that's a policy challenge. That's where we need to sort of see how can we sort of make sure that this growth doesn't get usurped by only our sort of, you know, one side of the picture, because both sides of the coin should be able to get the benefits of access to finance. Yes, one more point which I'd like to mention from this slide is the role of NADRA. So, you know, in the past a couple of years, actually, Pakistan has made major strides in digital finance. And at the center of this is NADRA, because NADRA is able to give a unique biometric ID. That sort of gives a lot of, so that's actually what sort of opened the door towards digital finance. And many of you might remember that Telenor Bank, which is, you know, what under whose wings there's EasyPesa. It was one of the pioneers. And at that time, I was with the IFC, and we were also sort of shareholders. It used to be Tamir Bank, and for multiple reasons, we brought in Telenor later, and that became Telenor Bank. But that again was, you know, one of the pioneering, you could say, players or the stakeholders. All right, so again, lots of heavy data here. Again, on the left side, you just see the evolution of the regulatory structure, which has allowed us to tap into digital finance. But having said that, there's a lot, you know, miles to go before I sleep. So there's lots and lots that still needs to be done. Yet, you know, it's not the final frontier. And if there's any Star Trek fan here, you'll see that many of my presentations always have a Star Trek reference. So it's a new, but it's not the final frontier. This is again something that serendipitously, you know, it fell into our laps during, you know, during the time that Pakistan was dealing with the COVID crisis, because COVID kind of hit us like a deer caught in the headlights. And, you know, institutions were forced to sort of seek digital sources. Digital finance became sort of a, you know, like a need rather than a luxury, or rather than a sort of side hobby of banks. So I think digitization, and I'm sure each and every one of you has lots of examples where your parents became more digital savvy, or your bosses, and you were working from home and everything. Of course, there are sort of good stories and bad stories. But again, it was a good thing for financial inclusion because it sort of helped the country sort of, breach that or break that glass ceiling and approach digital finance with confidence. Sorry, I'm just going back to the earlier slide for a second. Yeah, so this is something that, I think this is something that we can look on with a lot of pride and optimism, because the central bank has just given licenses to 5 digital banks. This had been in the works since a long time. And the central bank had been sort of working on a sandbox approach, you could say, to sort of check the regulatory structures that are needed for digital finance. And that finally happened. And last year, 5 of these digital banks, they're still work in progress. They've been granted the licenses. And all of them are actually working on women's segments, because that need sort of came up very, very clearly during the COVID time, that women are a significant segment, the small commerce, the traders, even exporters, they're all on multiple digital platforms. So this is, I think, positive, and we'll be looking at this space on how these banks are able to translate the women aspiration into something more tangible. Again, some of these challenges have been talked about. This is more in the Pakistani context. So some are very clear, like the socio-cultural factors, that's the way we are set up. It's a patriarchal place. So, it's likely that it's very difficult to sort of push women into the economic foray. But having said that, we do need to keep that in mind, because every policy that we develop has to keep that in mind, that these are the sort of socio-cultural contexts that we're working. And then again, there's the legal barriers. There are sort of multiple, you can see more details in the report later, because it gets rather technical. There are lots and lots of areas where, there's, you could say, room for improvement, where, there needs to be sort of legal and regulatory reforms to make the sort of ground, or you could say the level playing field for women. And then there's again that gender bias in lending practices, because again, banks are very averse to sort of lending to women. That's one of the major issues. And again, they are, it's more difficult to do a know your customer sort of assessment on a woman. If I can just quote in one of the, when we were developing a gender product, and this is actually not in Pakistan, this is elsewhere, but this would be very, very relevant in Pakistan as well. So the credit officer was required to be going to the woman's place of business about 3 or 4 times in the whole credit cycle. Once to sort of see the business again, to assess the business, to talk to her, you could say, her workers, and see her cash flows and things like that. So that actually got to be extremely tedious. And this was in a different country, that the women said that, this is getting very awkward, and I feel that, this person is just like visiting me. It's bad for my business as well, because other people in the same vicinity see that I'm being visited by bank officers every 2-3 days. So people think that maybe there's some loan I need to give back. So those are the kind of things that we need to make sure that they're part of our credit cycles. And there's lots and lots of, you could say, best practices. And, I'll be sharing references. Manur, how am I on time? All right. So I'm just, talking about the sort of, possible implications of, or you could say the opportunity. Now in Pakistan, we do have a, nascent ecosystem, so that digital savviness, permeates through the women entrepreneurship segment. So there is, through Circle, women are being imparted digi skills. There's Tech Karo, then the NIC, which is the accelerator. There are sort of other sort of measures which are being taken by multiple, you could say, by the World Bank and different bodies like that. So again, I would have to say that one of the things that as someone who sort of looks at the sector is that a lot of work is being done. For example, World Bank will be doing something, then the USAID will be running a different program, and FCDO will be running a different program. I do think there's room to aggregate, because many times we end up reinventing the wheel, and there's a chance to sort of leverage off the work that's being done by the other bodies, and that's not being done. And many of the trainings are quite similar. Many of the sort of approaches could be collaborated upon. So that would be one of the sort of recommendations. Again, mentorship, just a second. So we have very few mentorship opportunities. So all this work that I'm talking about is kind of being done in a silo. And I think that there's an opportunity to formalize. And I was talking to one of the business women who's going to be talking about mentorship that she's doing. There are women I know with the chambers of commerce as well that are sort of informally mentoring other businesses, other women. But having said that, I think it just needs to be formalized a bit. The way if you have a chance, look at the structure that the Sherry Blair found. So Sherry Blair is sort of running this foundation through which it's like a network through which, where women leaders mentor other women leaders, but it's done in a very, very formal way. So there's a structure, there's a matrix, there are benchmarks that one has to meet within a certain time period. So that's the kind of mentorship maybe, we could work on more in the Pakistani context. And who would bring them all to this forum? It would have to be the government, and maybe a nudge from like the World Bank can sort of hold a policy forum. But I think the impetus would have to come from the government, because that's the only one that gets hammered down among, you could say, SME sector forever and ever. Otherwise, it's a conference that one goes to, talks to like-minded people, and comes back with a little more learning. But it's never sort of formal, and it's never enough. So again, this is something that's worth mentioning, because again, this is one of the sort of best things that the central bank has done in recent times. They have created this Banking on Women policy, under which all banks need to meet certain sort of gender benchmarks in terms of the portfolios of women that they hold. The way the central bank has had targets for, let's say, agri portfolio, climate finance portfolio, now gender is also one of these. But again, it's not mandatory at this stage, but at least the guidelines are there. And it's like a three-pronged approach. One is through the beneficiaries of the bank loans, that they need to be like a certain portion of women entrepreneurs. The second is the bank's own ethos. How are they hiring? How are they giving a conducive work environment to women? Do they have a GRM, which is a grievance mechanism, and that sort of thing? So just keep an eye on in this space, because this is just the beginning, and you'll be seeing a lot of banks coming up with their own sort of gender policies in the sort of coming days. They need to hire women champions. They need to have a certain portion of women credit officers, because that was one of the challenges, that women were not comfortable with male credit officers, at least for a certain strata. So this is like a methodology by which I think more women can be brought into the fold. We're out of time. Okay, so I'll actually just leave you with this final thought. This is actually talking specifically about women in trade. So so I've had like sessions with the EU reps here in Pakistan to get their sort of views and insights as well. And Pakistan has had this GSP Plus opportunity, but it's been squandered because over the past 10 years, for the past decade, it's grown by only, 108%. And it's mostly in the textile segment, while there are 600 sort of product lines where one can sort of do that. And one of the recommendations that came from them actually is that, that these are the low-hanging fruits. Focus on the sports goods, the surgical goods, and, contrary to perceptions, Pakistan is not at the forefront, except for forward sports, because that received a lot of, you could say, public visibility. But, the main problem is our factories are not following the sort of standardization matrix, which are necessary in European markets. So that's the GSP story. And I'll leave you with that thought, because women have a lot to do. This is not the end of the road for in terms of policy making. And there are people in the parliament who are sort of raising, who are conscious of these things and are raising their voices again and again, and that just needs to continue. And also that needs to come from the male champions as well. So I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you again, and thank you to SBI.
Thank you very much for that, Faiza. This on our website, you're all welcome to visit in. And of course, if you have any queries, comments, you can email Faiza and myself. Moving on, I'd like to request Ms. Rumina for her special remarks. Ma'am, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all the worthy panelists, especially my special regards to Madam Bharucha, of course, Dr. Waqar, and all the worthy guests who are sitting over here, and all those are online. It's a great honor for being here and talking about the subject which you have given. But today, I think I'll be going different in a way, because maybe few people like it, maybe few people doesn't like it, but this is something which I believe, which I experienced as being when I was in business, when I am in politics, and as I served in the leading position as being in power, when we say when I served as the state minister or heading being the convener of SDGs of the parliament. So there are different things, but today the subject, which is very much towards woman empowerment. What is empowerment? I'm not asking a definition, or I'm not here to brief, because everybody have a different point of view, different way, but something which comes from the experience or which you have learned, that is entirely different. I really appreciate the report which you have mentioned here, but a person from the ground reality, a person from the grassroots. I'm not saying that you people are not going the ground reality, but a person from the grassroots level who suffered, who worked, like seeing all the highs and lows and downs and, you know, so much thing. But most important thing is that woman, it's not nowadays, by talking in 2024, I've been to around the world. I'm sure most of our people, they've been to around the world. Women and men both are having the same issues in globally. They have the same issues. Bachcha's problem, they have, most of the people are Pakistani. So maybe I'll go a little bilingual, but in the beginning, I wanted to say in English more that, you know, thoda sa pata chale that I'm a little bit educated, but not that much, but little bit. But, you know, it's everywhere the same. The issues of the children, the issue of the education, the financial issues, the marriage life issues, good, bad, divorce, you know, relations, all the issues are the same. But in Pakistan, right now, when we are talking about the women empowerment here, and we're talking about the equal wages and all, Alhamdulillah, 6, 7 ladies who are sitting in front of you, they are all on the well platforms. They are getting better, I'm sure, I could be wrong, but better than a man. They have a better lifestyles rather than, and they are not dependent on anyone. They are independent. Like if I talk about myself, I'm a single mother working on my own from so long, a self-made person. But the most important challenges which we are talking, it's not the woman who is on this position or who is a literate woman. The biggest challenge is with those women who, and most of the time, the women like us, like you were talking about, very well said, you said the important thing for me today, which you mentioned, madam, that you know, the phone numbers or the SIM, you know, after 20 years, I have to give, I didn't feel that much pain when I was being like, got separated from my husband or divorced. But when I was giving of my number, of my phone number, that was a big pain for me. And it happened just a few days back. And I felt that, oh my God, my identity is going back from me because that was not on my name. I was being told that it was on my name, but it was not. It was on my ex-husband's name. So, you know, these are the issues. We talk about the legislation. We have plenty of legislation, my dear. Coming back from I had my 2 terms of the parliament. And we have lots of legislation. I'm not interested in women legislation more. Why? I don't want empowerment. I want the equal, because we are equal. Woman can also do the same thing which man is doing, and the man is doing the same things, which a few things he can't, but like, yeah, most of the things we are doing. So I don't want to talk about the woman empowerment only, the gender. I want the gender equality. And it's for everyone. It's for the transgender as well. It's for those who know, like, you know, those suffering. And most important thing is when you talk about, you know, there are, if you go, because I was being the part of the Prime Minister Youth Program previously as well, and this time as well. And when we are giving the loans towards the woman, they're more responsible. I'm sorry, I don't know which banks they are, which they're not providing. I got loan myself as well previously when I want to, you know, in few issues. I didn't face challenges. In fact, I feel more responsible, and they believe that most of the banks, they believe, I don't want to take a name of the bank, so because I don't want anyone to think that they have paid me for the promotion. So I'll just keep it. Afterwards, you can ask. So, you know, it is moreover, they believe that the woman is more responsible. And I believe, I've been to a business background, business is in my genes. I believe the woman is more into taking the risk because she have a strong gut feeling. Most of the women are sitting over here, they always say, today my intuition is saying this. And their intuitions are always right. You know, so I don't believe which woman you're talking. The woman of Pakistan, to be very honest, I've been to America, I've been to Europe, I've been to Central Asia. I feel the woman of Central Asia is more stronger. And why we always focus that, you know, GSP plus, okay, that's a very good thing. But it's not only the GSP. The thing is, we have to think larger. We should not comparison ourselves. I don't want to do any sort of a competition with anyone. Competition is healthy. But talking about the nearest few countries, maybe it's India or something, there is no competition of ours. We have to fight, we have to go a long way. because we have been pushed so back. Now we have to take our space. And everywhere, trust me, the woman is more, when I've been to America, I don't mind to say it. I've been to America in IVLP program, and over there I found that, oh my God, I'm better than them. I have a more strong voice in the parliament rather than these women. They can't get the more strong access towards the parliament, rather we have. So I think these are the few things which we have to see. And another important thing is that the woman sitting in this position, I would request, if you're working on the woman empowerment, and the most important thing is the woman who's more literate, who's more educated, who's more on the strong position, they're more vulnerable. They are, because they are in such a bad social and traumas. They need mental health. In our country, we feel ashamed talking about the psychiatrist. In our country, we feel shame that if somebody will say, oh, you are oh, you have some issues. You should not, you should go do namaz, do this. Yes, it's there. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, do mashwara, ask someone. So there is no harm in it. So we don't discuss that, because we are the women who are more into the social pressures. The Gaon Wali woman, the villager woman, they don't care about few things. When they stood up, nobody, there is do and die. Because for them, it's my way or highway. For us, no, we have a zigzag way. We have to make happy to our boss. We have to make happy to our nearby people. Then we have to make happy to our husband. Then when you go back home, you can't complain that you are tired. These are the biggest hurdles in empowerment. And what else empowerment you people call for? Because I in the beginning, I said that maybe I'll go a little on another track, but these are the things which I faced. It took me a long time to understand that what I can do. People sitting over there and talking about Romina is okay, love, come on, man. Do dafa minister rahi hai, Fabo rahi hai, she must be strong. No, to prove my position, I have to give 100 times more than a man. It's not to prove a man. It's moreover to prove a woman as well. Because woman is sometimes more create hurdles for other women. I'm sorry, but that's true. You have to be the support, because we need to talk more about now the science. The modern era is talking about the positive and negative energy. Now they're talking more about the karma. They're more talking about the giving. They're talking more about these things. But what we are doing, because we are somewhere standing in a position, we don't know which way to go. Should we take the west? Should we take east? Should we take north? And in that we lost. Do we want to be the lost nation? And that is the biggest problem of ours, because we don't know what we want. And at the moment when you're going to realize, when we start listening just to ourselves, and I think that's moreover the connectivity and connection, and that can be only done because on these forums, I think we need to promote and talk more about mental health and mental health, and to promote and to be the support. Because whatever you're going to give to other, it is going to come back to us. Because as being all, whoever is from whichever religion, every religion taught us, give and it will get back to you. So this is the normal science, which I believe we have to guide each other, that if you're going to give me best, you'll get best. If you're giving me negative, of course, someday you're going to get the negative. So that's a simple science, simple maths, because I'm not a good student of maths, and never ever. But anyway, so, and then it's good to talk about the World Bank. It's good to have the different surveys. But the issue is, I have always issues with these sort of surveys, because I believe there should be the categories. From so long there, we are just listening that this survey happened, this survey happened, this survey happened. Okay, then next. What are the solutions? The solutions are, moreover, first we need to go for the database things. When we go for the surveys, if we go to on those areas which are not much more, suppose if you're talking about the villages, we have greatest examples of Akhuwat, Over there also men go and visit, but they made a design of a way that I've done myself, because my biggest issue is when I do something, I do research by myself and along with SDPI too, most of the time. But you know, I've been to for the micro 2 minutes. Before that it was not, but now it's 2 minutes. But anyways, I'll take 1 minute more as well. So when I went to these surveys by myself, I found that the Ahud Bank, Ahud Microfinances or Baitul Mal or, you know, they send their people to. But they make a model in which everyone is responsible for everyone. Like 10 people, 10 women, they are together. They are getting the loans, like it's 25,000. But so one leader, they are responsible for the others, that have they paid their installment or not. Because of course, for the bank, the lady who is sitting from the business community from here and I myself, my issue is not going to be who is dwelling. The woman is going to give me the money or the man is going to, for me, money is matter more because I want my money to get back to me. So I think these are the things in which we have to see, like Baitul Mal is there. Pakistan Baitul Mal has invested a lot. They had a great examples, but we have forgotten them. We don't want to promote them. We want to go for the new experiences. So I think it's better, which we have. Let's focus on that. Like Benazir Income Support Program is again a great success. So I think for these things, we need to focus more. And another thing last, because I just left with 2 minutes, I believe that moreover is important, first of all, the basic. If you, from the schools, from the colleges, and in the society which we have, it's a bubble of a society which we have made, that, you know, we are praising, but inside we're not supporting. So we need to break this bubble first. There is nothing in woman or a man. We all need to support, because this is the system which we, like, you know, most of the time, as being from so long, like now I'm a middle-aged woman, I believe that I got most of the time support. It's not that I didn't face hurdles. Maybe I had faced so much hurdles, but it's more important that when the hurdle is there, do you want to sit and talk about the hurdle or do you want to go for the solutions? And the solutions are, trust me, very easy if we go towards it. And I believe that if we really want to work, it's moreover important to go for the easiest solutions, simple and easiest. Because when you put so much spices into anything, either it's food, either it's work, either it's construction or what, then it becomes something difficult for you when you don't know how to handle it. Things are very much there. And I think I'm always there if anything anybody wants to know, or because I like working on few things. And then the digital thing, I want to really say something on about this era, that when we talk about the businesses, I think it's more important that the women, those are working, it's if their surveys are here, if the people who are here ready to support international and national, I believe that the women are, those are working, it's moreover important to focus how to channelize them and how to bring their work in the digital and how to equip them with the digital training, simple, easiest digital trainings. Like I just want to give a small example. I was in Paris going for the COP21 and I was, we drove from Holland to Paris. And at the moment we reached to the Paris, near to the Paris border, gadget who was telling us the way, suddenly he started talking in Urdu, Aage sarhad hai. यहाँ से दाएं मुड़े और 100 गज के फासले पर सरहद, and I was like, what the hell, how she can talk, the Siri is talking or the Google app is talking in Urdu. And that person was told me that few days back that somebody came and we put this into in Urdu translator. So if we can do these sort of things, the people can learn more, because in Pakistan, we are so much available for the TikToks, like billion on any sort of a stupid sort of a thing, 100 and million and 400 million and 300 million likes and shares on TikTok. So if we can do these sort of things, we can literally do these sort of things. But as being previously as a teacher too, I'm a Montessori trained teacher too, I believe it's always how you guide a child. If you're going to tell him A for apple, that's just A for apple. But if you go with the proper theory, and tell them with the help of flashcards, easiest approach, that will always remind him and remember him. Thank you so very much. Jazakallah. और वैसे मुझे लगा था special marks end में होते हैं, but anyways.
Apologies, madam, but thank you so much for your remarks. I'd like to move on to the discussants next. If Ms. Ji? Ji, bilkul. So Ms. Huma Fakhr, if you want to be seated, that's also perfectly fine. Okay.
Thank you, Mahanur.
Yeah. Very good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you, STPI, Waqar and your team, as usual, brilliant. I'm Huma Fakhr. I'm primarily a business person. I export rice. My work on the development side is basically I'm on the boards of a few multinationals, domestically and abroad, and also some civil society. I mean, despite the gloom and the doom when they talk about what's happening to women in this country, I think the scenario is changing. I was very happy to listen to Rumina's presentation. Things are changing and things are changing very fast. The tool that is changing everything for women in Pakistan is technology. Financial inclusion and so many other things, they are really hopping on board primarily because we are leapfrogging through technology. FinTech is the crown. There are plenty of things that are going wrong in Pakistan, and we keep discussing on the economy side. But if there was one jewel in the crown, that is how women are taking their space. That is how wonderful women are performing. You know, do we know that just in the last 2 months, the first ever gender bond was launched, Pakistan's first ever gender bond. It's probably one other gender bond in the region and very few in the world. And Pakistan has become one of that country that has a gender bond that will invest in women entrepreneurs. We look at the dairy sector, 94 million animals. Who takes care of all those animals? Well, most of those animals, all women. There is a Harvard Business Review case study on how the barefoot workers, they call it, because they didn't even have shoes, but how they took care of the animals and how productivity has been improving slowly and slowly in the last 15 years. And it's been quoted as a global study. Did we know that lady health workers, WHO has registered that 100,000 lady health workers have been working through 8,000 clinics in the rural Pakistan. All these are highlighted, and I can go on and on. How many more stories are there? I think most of the facts and the figures have been given by the Honorable Speaker who came to give the technical side. And I just would like to highlight why am I so positive and why I feel in all the work that I've done in the last 20 years that things are changing. My first work came through the dairy sector. I'm a member of Nestle's DRDF, which is the Farmer Development Board. So as a board member, I can tell you the first thing we did, we authored a book and we realized on this vision for the dairy sector, and we realized everything is being done by women, but there's no women to be seen when you go to the rural. We targeted a 1 million training program for women, including loans, and see how it ends up. All I can say is that we have a global study being done on it because there was 1% delinquency rate, and the women, and we are far more 1 million right now. How we did it? We created a loan, but it wasn't a loan with an interest. We created a loan, we went to the villages, we told the women and the men, very important, the cultural issue has to be sorted. We told the men and the women, we give you the money, go get the training, buy the animal, and we will buy the milk back. And it was not just one company. We asked the whole sector that now that we have trained women, you can buy the milk, but on a premium because these are trained women. And I can tell you within the first day that I went to talk to these women was in Sheikhupura district. And I'm sitting alone in the room And I think for the first 1 hour, there was not a single woman coming in because the men said, you've come to spoil our women and we're not. And this is about 11 years back. And all I can tell you, from that point where we gave them the money for animal husbandry, training in how to get premium milk, in the first 3 years review, these women were ready to set up their small dairy businesses. So we told them how to make vanda. Vanda is fodder. So we created shops for them in their homes for vanda and for veterinary services. So in the first 3 years, they became entrepreneurs. First, the training, then entrepreneurs sitting in home and doing their fodder and veterinary services. And in the last review, these same women from those same places where the men told me, you've come to spoil our women, the men asked, can you give her loan for a motorbike so she and my daughter can go and distribute the vanda also? Because ye bana ke baithe rehte and we don't know, jab time milta hai, to then we go and distribute. So our latest, and I'm talking of places like Kabirwala, the core conservative places. So yes, the rural Pakistan is rocking, and there is a very slight revolution taking place. Yes, you will hear it slowly, but it is happening because I've seen it in the last 15 years that I work in the dairy sector. The second comes, my work is with a global organization based out of the UK. And what we do under that global organization is we've created an entrepreneurship fund. And with that fund, we select 20 women, young students from Pakistan, mostly orphanages. And then we set up their businesses. And all I can say is, rather than going into too many details, one side, the quality of pitches is such that when I went back to London to tell them what the pitches were, they actually asked me, can you go back and ask what curriculum is the orphanage teaching them that these kids, these young class aim up with these pitches? And you know the truth? There was no curriculum. There is no STEM or anything being taught. It is simple. Any orphanage can afford. But when you talk to the girls, they have just sat on the YouTube. They have just gone digital and learned it all by themselves. And I'll give you an example. So one of this girl, she said, ma'am, when she was pitching, she said, ma'am, when I came to this orphanage, I was 6 months old. And I had no family, and this orphanage has given us everything, food, family, whatever. The only thing they never gave us enough was a soap to bathe and to use and for all that. And she said, always in my mind, I had that I have to do something with the soap. She sat on the Google or YouTube or wherever. She created an organic soap. And I can tell you, I use that soap every day. She had an order for 11,000 soaps, which we are now funding and taking forward. And I can tell you, there's so many more stories, whether it's for a while, we could do, I understand, I'll just wind up. Yeah. So in short, my humble submission is, things are positive. Financial inclusion, the regulatory framework is tremendously improving in Pakistan. It's the implementation. The donors are doing a wonderful job. And yes, I strongly feel as a private sector, as a business person, the market can take care of social needs, which we're trying to do with whatever little as a business person we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fakhr. It's very heartening to see that you're also helping and empowering other women to become like yourself. Moving on, I'd like to request Ms. Amala for her remarks. Ma'am, over to you.
So I have been told already that I only have 7 minutes to talk, so I'm going to be brief because a lot of the stats and the numbers have already been explained by the esteemed fellow panelists here. So I'm just going to begin and talking about the challenges that women are feeling. Firstly, just to give a slight global context that this struggle for women, it has never been easier. If you look back like centuries ago, even 20, 30 years ago, women have come far way along, but they had a lot of sacrifice and struggle in that. Even that, if that's the right to vote, right to even have equal wages, a lot of things, there has been a lot of struggle involved around that. But globally, now it's slightly better because even in the US alone, there are about 1,200 businesses registering every day, and they are women-owned businesses. And that is in turn going to give opportunities for like 20 million more individuals down the line, 20 to 30 years later. So yes, it is getting better, but there still is space for improvements. As my fellow panelists mentioned here, that there are still challenges around that as well, because even around the world, there are just 38% of the women that are financially independent or are taking a role or are being entrepreneurs, but there still is a lot more to do. Coming to Pakistan now, so of course, if you look back 20, 30 years ago, we are doing far more better compared to where we are. But before reaching the end of the tunnel, I think let's just take a ride and see how bumpy this journey has been for them. We still face a lot of challenges around cultural, societal, religious norms. Pakistan is such a diverse, cultured country. We have got like people from like Punjabi, Pathans. It's like beauty of this country is that it's a mix of diverse cultures. And the problems of each of these cultures is different from the other one. Like a Punjabi might be having slight different issues compared to Pathan family, because I myself hail from Lucky Marwat, so I can very well speak for myself and the women in my locality, because they're not doing so well. They are working in the agriculture, as like we mentioned that 7 million of the women in Pakistan, they're working in agriculture, but it's just like they're working for their family. The families are revolving around them, but they're not at the center of it. They are always providing for the others. They do not have independence enough. They do not have that, they can't make the decisions for themselves. Like if they want to have a business, if they want to go for an opportunity, they can't do it because it's the society that they live in, especially the concept of parda that we have here. And women cannot easily go out. So, in this regard, I think it's good that if we can bring the market close to the women rather than women leaving out of the comfort of her house, where she has to break a lot of barriers and stereotypes and go out. I'm sure that there's a lot being done on women empowerment. As you all mentioned, there are many good things happening, but there still is a lot more that can be and that should be done in this regard. I'm sorry I had my presentation here, but when I was told I would have less time, so I'm just going to skim through a few things here. Then maybe I just will take a look at it. Okay, because I think I've forgotten a few things. Okay, so now talking about the finances that we mentioned here. So as you said that there, Homa mentioned that there are a lot of financial loans that are being given out to women in the villages, in the rural areas. But there are a lot of even women in the rural areas that even don't have any awareness about it. They don't even know if there's any loan that is available and that they can get that opportunity. And because we live in a patriarchal society, so at the back of a woman, there always is a man guiding her through. Even if she's getting that loan, in the front, it might be her getting that loan. But at the back of it, she does not have the choice what business she wants to get into. How does she want to use that money? She always has to rely on a male member. Initially, if a woman had to register her company in Pakistan, she was required to have the name of her husband or her father. Luckily, that is not the case anymore. But still, I think for women, it's not this financial independence that she requires. It's this sense of accomplishment, proving to other people that I'm worth something and I can also do something that is more at the front. And women getting into businesses are mostly at risk, I would say, because a man just goes out to do something and he's not answerable to many. But a woman, she has a burden that she's carrying along and she is answerable to many. So we have to put this thing in consideration. And even when we are looking into policies, national policies, they should be centered around women and especially differentiated on the basis of rural and urban areas as well. Because the problems that these women faces are completely different. As Ma'am Khurshida mentioned that women are in the rural areas, they're doing far more better because for them, it's either the way or the highway, because they are not even aware of their rights. They don't even know that what has been taken away from them, what their potential is. They're doing so well in different industries. Like in Pakistan, we have got beautiful handicrafts they make, artistry. There are a lot of things that they do. but they cannot reap the full benefit out of it because they are not well aware. So there should be awareness programs. We need to have trainings, mentorship, like we have got these amazing ladies here that have done so much in the field of business. These success stories need to go down to those women that do not have any information of the opportunity available to them, but they have a lot of potential regarding it. We need to work on building their capacity. They need to be skilled enough. Education is at the base of everything. Give a woman an education and you give a family education and make a woman empowered, and you're actually going to make the whole nation empowered, because a woman, when she comes from a family, she is giving that strength, that independence to her children as well, which is actually going to help in building this nation as a whole. How much time am I left with? Okay, 2 more minutes, fine. So I'm coming from the SCDO, and in our programming, it's that we definitely have women at the base of almost all our programs. I would like to mention Bahimad Buzurg, which is an intervention of the SNG program, where elderly women were being given 2,500 rupees. I know it's a very small amount, but they were given that for their basic necessities. And there, of course, there is BIST, there is Kisan program, which is actually for the women, but it's not been accessed in the same way. So education is very important. There has to be awareness. Like we have got people from World Bank here. We have got a lot of people here. The donors, they're working in multiple areas, but there has to be a mechanism for collaboration. The government, the civil society, and the donor organizations, they should all come together at front, and they should actually discuss the potential that these women have, and then to treat the problem accordingly, because it's not about rights. Most of the people in Pakistan, they don't even know about their rights. Like I'm standing here, I might seem very empowered woman, but there are certain things that I have to go back and get approval from my male members of my family. And let's face this reality, we all have this thing. We're not independent in making all the decisions we have. So a family structure that should be strengthened is needed here. Even the men should be incentivized that if they support their women, it's going to bring back initiatives and support for the family as a whole. They need to be cultured about this thing. And in Pakistan, as we know, we at the base of everything have religion. The religious clergy can play a very important role in that, maybe in their sermons, because even in Islam, it does not stop a woman from working. We know of Hazrat Khatija. She was the most successful businesswoman. She was working 1400 years ago. Why can women not do that now? Of course she can. But we just have to slightly work around the mindset that we have here. And if we have an educated mindset, inshallah, we're going to have a very flourished family. And there definitely is hope at the end of the tunnel, but we just are slightly far away from it. And soon we'll be able to overcome these obstacles. Thank you so much. I hope I was on time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amala. Next, I'd like to request Ms. Sonia Said for her remarks. Sonia, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. A very good morning for all of you. I think I'll probably take less than the time that has been designated to me. And that's primarily because a lot of good things have been said today. I think we've spoken about the challenges which surround women entrepreneurship in Pakistan and globally as well. And while it's important to discuss the challenges, I think I need to draw some attention to the solutions which we all are working towards. And I'm basically working for a USAID funded project called Investment Promotion Activity. And my experience has primarily been on policy and regulatory reforms, working with donor funded projects. I think in terms of today's discussion, there were 3 elements which I wanted to touch upon. Firstly, the global landscape around women entrepreneurship, and why are we talking about women entrepreneurship is particularly because of the reason that we feel that for empowering women, it is important to empower them in a way that they become a productive member of the society. So we are really looking at economic empowerment, and in that sense, entrepreneurship becomes a center stage. I'm sure you all, we all scroll down LinkedIn every day, and there are a number of programs, web series, talks, panel discussions happening every day, which talk about women entrepreneurship. There's a lot of focus and prominence on this topic. However, I do think that there still remains a lot of disparity in terms of the stories that are told and the stories that do not get unfolded or untold. And I think that's what my esteemed guests also pointed to. There are the usual suspects who obviously those women have done a lot of hard work and certainly need to be acknowledged. But then we really need to go out and make a concerted effort to find those which are lacking in some respect, which need the exposure that can bring them to the forefront. We as women, I feel, I'd like to believe we've been to good universities, we've had the privilege of finding jobs for ourselves, but the people or the women who really need our support are back in the villages, who really need exposure are back in the villages. And I think that's where the focus should really be. USAID itself, other donors, I think SDPI, we all have been, initiating programs which are taking women entrepreneurship a step further. In terms of challenges, we've spoken about access to credit. Of course, that remains a paramount challenge because, women have limited asset ownership. And once they do not have the asset ownership, that obviously limits their capability to get credit from the bank. One other aspect, of course, is their own understanding of their business or how they intend to take their business forward. And I think that's where a lot of capacity building programs can come in to make them understand their business model per se, and also how they need to grow their business. So because obviously if you're an entrepreneur, you want to take your business to a certain extent, whether it is domestically or internationally. And I think that's where the energies should be focused at. In terms of, government regulation, I think I'd like to make note of that point. Yes, we do have a lot of regulations. We do not need special regulations for, women entrepreneurs or women as such. What we really need is a deliberate action to take a look at those regulations and see if those are, in a sense, not creating disparity or limiting the participation of women. I remember we were engaged as part of this government program called Pakistan Regulatory Modernization Initiative, and I was having interactions with a few women-led businesses and generally just trying to understand what are the regulations, what are the various processes which are cumbersome. And I was taken by surprise that one woman mentioned that as per law, a female cannot open a pharmacy if she's unmarried and she does not produce a nikah-nama. And I was taken aback. I was like, okay, so meaning if I'm unmarried and I want to open up a pharmacy, that's a business. How do I produce a nikah-nama? So those are the kind of changes that really need to now translate into the regulations that we have in place. And I think I'd like to give credit to the private sector and the government that realization is there, that sensitization is there. A lot of good work is happening. We've spoken about the banking on equality policy. It is also the banks internalizing what needs to change internally in terms of how they view women employees. We've spoken about dual roles. I think there has to be an acceptability that a woman can be a mother, she can be in a senior role as well. It could very much mean that I can bring my daughter to this event while I'm doing a panel discussion. I think we need to start normalizing those roles, and that will eventually lead to a positive change in the environment. I think a sub-theme that you wanted me to speak on was how do we envision the private sector and the government to come together and resolve these challenges. I think on the government side, of course, we would want ideally that there's a dedicated platform where your private sector and the government can come together to discuss these challenges, to develop solutions through a participatory approach. And we do not limit it to those women who are, in such a privileged situation or at a position of authority, but really take it down to the grassroots level, have those women talk about their issues. At times, you'll just notice that women just want to talk about, their business. They want to nurture the networks. They want to have connectivity. They're at times even simply unaware of a lot of positive initiatives that are available in the market. So I think a lot of connectivity and access to information can help in this regard. When we talk about international market, helping them to be part of the global value chain and trade side, it's obviously international market is a daunting field for, women entrepreneurs, not only for women entrepreneurs. I feel with the kind of processes that we have, even a man would be scared to, start getting engaged into international trade. So many processes, compliances, logistics. So I think that needs to be simplified. At times, there's a simple language barrier. That's something that we can do away with. Capacity building initiatives, mentorship. I am recently, as part of this project, working on identifying a training need, and we'll be soon launching a training for export readiness for women-led businesses. And trust me, it was quite a big challenge to even find women-led businesses who I could, take through a certain criteria and say that perhaps they're ready to market their product, or they can take their product, elsewhere in some other market. So once you work with these entrepreneurs, you'll realize that they're very diverse. There are a lot of good things that they're working on, but they're very sporadic. They do not have an understanding of how to run their business. Their financials are not quite straightforward. So I think that's where the effort really should be targeted at. A lot of good work is being done. And certainly I do believe in the power of women, I think, and equally in the power of men as well. I think the conversation is not to take away the credit from men out there. It's just that how, since women are, due to a lot of reasons, at an unequal stage, it's really a matter of pushing them forward. And I think we are headed in a right direction. And on that note, I'll just conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Last but not least, of course, I'd like to request our chair, Madam Bharucha, for her remarks. Madam is also Board of Governors at SDPI. Ma'am, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start with the opening remarks. What Brigitte said, it was so encouraging for us. Faiza, your detailed presentation really encouraged us, and we learned a lot. Romana, of course, she spoke of her heart. She said, empowerment, women are already empowered. We know women are more empowered, but we talk of entrepreneurship, where they are not empowered in entrepreneurship, where they should have. Huma, you talked about women. Yes, we see women in agriculture, and you talked about Nestle and how women are working in agriculture and, of course, in livestock, agriculture. These are the places where women are working, and I'll talk more on that afterwards. Sonia, you talked about entrepreneurship. And you talked a lot about that, and that was encouraging, where you said private, government should be there together to implement and to encourage women. That's very nice. And of course, Amala talked about KP, coming from KP, and what difficulties they face there. I do agree with her. I come from Balochistan, and we have a lot of problems. Being in this field for a very, very long time, I know what women are facing, and we have to be very frank and open. Where problems are, I always feel, women have been neglected. They have never given their rights. Maybe education is the main problem. Now we are not talking only of women in the urban area. I think rural women needs more attention. They are very good. Like one of the here, I think Humaira or somebody talked about how they do their dressmaking or embroidery. They're very good at everything, but there is no encouragement. They don't know, there is no marketing. We talk of microcredit over here. Yes, microcredit are given to women, again, men, because they are dominating. So in rural area, women have no rights. They don't even know about their rights, what they're doing. Working at grassroots level and looking at the women, we talk of 21st century over here. We say we are very progressive, but sorry to say, we are not. Sitting here, I've been talking on this topic, and this topic has been so close to my heart. Okay, I want to see women of Pakistan coming up, being a member in the Chamber of Commerce. This is where I always tell them, training should be given to women. I asked one of the women one day, "You're so good. Why don't you export?" She said, "There are so many problems in FBR. The first problem," she said, "was the income tax." She said, "My husband said, you cannot export," because he said that, nowadays Nadra has the family tree. And if you start paying income tax and doing export, my name will be there in the Nadra tree. And I also have to pay income tax. So I don't want you to do all this. She very openly said, "I cannot do that." So I personally, after listening to that lady, I feel what FBR should do to encourage women of Pakistan, especially for rural, they should free them for 3 years from income tax, let them start their earning and let them be on their foot, and then they start with the income tax that might encourage the women. We talk of bank loans. There are so many formalities that we cannot do it. So what about rural area women? What are we talking? So we have to be very, very frank where the hurdles are, where the problems are, and we have to come over those problems. What we are facing, it's not only here. Yes, government has done a lot where Benazir support program are, but again, I would say they are lacking in training. I believe that zakat money should also be given. First, they should be given training, and that money should be given to them. Giving money of Benazir support program, we don't have to make them beggars. We have to make them learn. We have to give them training. We have to give them guideline. This is what I feel if we want our women to be empowered. Well, when I use the word empowerment, Rowena comes in front of me. She said we are already empowered, so I wouldn't say that word. We are empowered. But I feel we have a lot of problems in our. The other thing, government makes policy. Yes, policies are there. No implementation takes place. No follow-up has been taken. So many laws are there. There are laws for women, so many laws. But where is the implementation? Where is the follow-up? Nothing. Microcredit has been given by so many organizations, and I'm part of those organizations myself. But have we ever done follow-up with what has been happening? Nothing. So the money is gone. We say we have given money for livestock. They buy these goats, sheep. After 2 years you go, nothing is there on ground. Again, we come back to that zero. So these things need follow-up. I feel private sector, government sector should sit together, put their heads together. 2 minutes are left. Put their heads together and then work out if we want the women to come up. And so I feel that we have to work together, and that is the only way out. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Lovely listening to you all. Really, it was good listening to you all. Thank you very much. And I must give credit to my moderator, Mahanur. Excellent time. You have known, on time you have done it. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, madam. This conversation was very interesting. I wouldn't have prompted you all on time if there was this limitation of the next panel. But thank you very much for all of your interventions. This discussion has been quite insightful. And of course, STPI wishes to take this forward as well with all of you. And If any of the participants will have any questions, of course, we can take them over tea, inshallah. So last but not the least, without further ado, I'd like to request Dr. Waqar Ahmed for his concluding remarks. And sir, in the interest of time, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mahnur. Really grateful to our very esteemed panel and grateful to our audience, colleagues who have joined us online. I know that we have gone over time, and this is what happens in conferences, of course, that one has to leave the hall for the next session to come in. So we'll of course remain disciplined, but of course, in the interest of my formal closing remarks, I'm very grateful to FNF for their partnership and collaboration and for continuing this program with STPI. And the research conducted by Ms. Faiza Khan, thank you very much for the very in-depth presentation. And as Mahnur said, the report will be made available for you within the next week or two online as well. The guidance that we continue to get from both our honorable parliamentarians, Madam Roshan Khurshid Bharucha and Madam Rumina, and of course, they have been engaged throughout the conference and continue to give their time to us, for which we are really grateful. Our discussions for today are very, very current practitioners of the subject. We couldn't have asked for more. They were overly stretched, and still they really took time out of their busy mornings today. So I'm grateful to Ms. Huma Fakhir for coming all the way. Ms. Sonia Seth and Ms. Amala Najib, really thank you to all three of you. STPI and FNF have put together a very small network of women who, as our honorable board member, Madam Roshan Bharucha said, who have actually started to export. Utilizing the GSP Plus facility, they've started to export items such as jewelry, honey, other processed items as well. And I think some of the members were there online as well. And we'll be happy to expand that network if there are others who would like to sort of learn from their experience. It's a learning group, basically. They are women entrepreneurs who have utilized the facility and started to export their products. I must also add here that, of course, STPI's own interest in integrating women entrepreneurs in trade supply chains in EU and beyond has been our long-standing program. Gender and trade policy has been a program since the past 14 years in STPI, and we continue to work with the Ministry of Commerce and the National Tariff Commission for gender-sensitive trade policy and gender-sensitive national tariff policy as well, getting the gender provisions in our free trade agreements and preferential trade agreements that we have in the region and beyond. And this is where I think one of our collaborations with the subnational program also comes in, where we focus on capacity building of our local government elected representatives and how they can encourage the women entrepreneurs in their area. Usually that is not a mandate given to our local government representatives, whose mandate is reduced to provision of public service delivery in water, sanitation, solid waste management. But this is something that we are trying to sensitize, that they're also your stakeholders who can bring the entire business, peace, and job creation agenda for you. And you get the brownie points, you will get re-elected the next time, you know. So once again, thank you very much. We'll close this session here and invite you for refreshments. And the next session here starts at 12:30. So look forward to welcoming you back. Thank you.